Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Haven. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me as always is my co-host Kenny. You can call me Tame, and guys, it's been a crazy week of football. A lot of the teams that we picked to win didn't. A lot of the teams that we picked to lose did. Actually, I think I got that flip-flop. I don't know, but just goes to show you just how hectic this week of football has been in the NFL. So, Ken, let's not waste any time. I know we have a lot to cover. Let's hop in with the news.
That we do. We have actually a good bit of news this week compared to the last few weeks anyways. First, we're going to start with the fact that Drake May did make his start against the Texans. We'll get into how that game went when we get to results. Obviously, a good chance for the rookie to make some noise and show what he can do against a pretty stout Texans defense.
Yeah, no, definitely the Texas defense definitely one of the better units in the league. So definitely, definitely a unit that you can go out and make a name for yourself against if you play well.
Next up, we have Jake Moody, kicker for the San Francisco 49ers, dealing with a high ankle sprain. He'll be out for an unknown amount of time. Obviously, that could be 3 to 6 weeks. They did sign Matthew Wright to fill in for kicking duties until then.
Yeah, any one of you that has the 49ers kicker on your fantasy team, just please, guys, I'm only going to say this because in my league, we had guys forgetting to, do their lineups. And when people are inactive in your fantasy football leagues, it ruins the experience for everyone. Granted, the one guy that I didn't even play this guy, but I will be covering this game during the fantasy football roundup this week because I think it's hilarious. But he literally gave himself a handicap by not starting a kicker and somehow still beat a guy that set a full roster. Again, I'm going to cover more of this during the fantasy football roundup after I go through my game because this was hysterical.
Yeah, it was definitely not a close game at the end, unlike some of your other ones. All right, next up we have the Eagles releasing linebacker Devin White. Don't believe he ever actually played it down for the Eagles, and he was released, so there's a good linebacker.
So begins the releases for the season. We're starting to see guys get cut that, made it past the preseason. I think this is the first news that we've had to cover of someone getting cut.
Yep. And next up, we have Derek Carr side game. So that does put him out for multiple weeks. That does open the door for Spencer Rattler to try to make a name for himself.
Yeah, and you know what? Spencer Rattler did not look bad this week. I'm just gonna throw that out there. He did not look terrible.
He did not. We'll obviously go over the game. The game score doesn't say everything about the game, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, no, despite the score, he was serviceable this week, in my opinion. He was.
I agree. Next up, we have DT Christian Wilkins from the Raiders. Has a Jones fracture and was placed on IR.
So we're getting into the injury news.
That's obviously a big ticket for
Yeah, definitely.
Brought in, and now he is done for probably the year, I would think. But
Yeah,
maybe he comes back later.
Speaking of the Raiders, I don't know if you've seen, but I know with the injury to Aiden Hutchinson, I know there's talks of Max Crosby going to the Lions now.
I think that could be possible. Obviously, the Raiders are very much in a buy or sell mode going into trade deadline. We'll see if maybe I think that's their last actual piece that will be worth trading, honestly. So I think if they do trade him, they're going to be asking for quite a bit for him.
I definitely agree.
Next up, we have some good news here as cornerback Tyson Campbell from the Jacksonville Jaguars is coming off IR and returning to practice soon.
So we finally have some guys coming off of the IR, guys. Instead of guys going on, well, I guess it's kind of blood in, blood out at this point. You know, we're kind of like, we're almost halfway through the season. And I guess it's kind of blood in, blood out, you know?
Most definitely, and we're going to see more people coming off. There's probably going to be more people going on. It's going to be quite a thing to see coming up.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, next up we have your Houston Texans placing Nico Collins on IR. He'll miss at least the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, he obviously missed this week. Did not really affect the offense too much. Granted, the Patriots are kind of a JV team, in my opinion. Although, again, the Texans' offense looked good. I'll cover more on that during the Houston huddle when we get to it. But yeah, no. Losing Nico Collins definitely was not a big hit to the Texans' starting lineup, nor was it a big hit to my starting lineup. And I will get to why when we get to the fantasy football roundup.
Having lots of problems with my voice setting.
Okay, yeah, we can hear you. We're good.
All right. But yeah, Nico Collins obviously it didn't affect it this week, but or this past week. But coming up, we're going to talk about the game later. They're going to have a much bigger test.
Yeah, much harder test for my Houston Texans this week.
Next up, we have Joe Burrow. Peppers landing on the commissioner exempt list. I do believe this is due to some type of domestic violence.
Yeah, it was he was charged with domestic violence, which of course we never like to hear, but yeah, apparently I don't know why he's exempt. In my opinion, he should still be spinning the wheel of punishment, but again, he's got some sort of story, you know, like this chick was drunk and belligerent and fell down the stairs herself. I don't know. It's a story that definitely does not sound feasible.
I definitely agree. Next up, we have the Cardinals are releasing veteran wide receiver Chris Moore. We're not going to touch too much on that as Chris Moore's mainly been a depth piece everywhere he's gone.
Yeah, so. Pretty much.
We're going to move on to the next big news here as Kayvon Thibodeau has a fractured scaphoid bone, which I have no idea where the hell that is. He did already have surgery to repair it, and he is considered week to week at the moment.
Well, guys, we officially have guys getting injured in places that we don't even know that the human body has. That's all I can really say on it.
Agreed. Next up, Cardinals D lineman. I believe this is their one of their rookies, Darius.
Hang on.
Turning off of IR.
For some reason, I'm not getting any desktop audio. This is not right. Fucking properties.
Well, that's not good.
All right. I think we're good. I think I fixed it.
Alrighty.
Yeah, we're good.
But yeah, rookie coming off of IR. Obviously, we like to see that a rookie didn't lose his entire season. And I think we got to keep it at that because obviously we don't know the impact he'll have on the team yet.
Yeah, no, I'm also just going to throw this out there. I am sorry to all of our viewers out there that are listening back to this and are wondering why Kenny started off the stream so quiet. Again, I've got a lot of things on my plate here with me being the only one in the house right now. So
they can hear me now, though, right?
Please allow me some patience while I work out hitches.
All right. Next up, assuming they can still hear me.
Yeah, they
can now.
We're good. We're all good. I fixed all that
problems. Back out.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Yeah. Okay, next up we have the leader in interceptions last year, Deron Bland, is coming back to practice for the Cowboys.
So Deron Bland coming back for the Cowboys. You know, with the pieces that they're missing, that could be big for them.
Yes, we'll obviously get to what happened this past week.
Yeah,
they are, I believe, on bye, so we'll see how healthy they get.
Goodness.
Rookie Bengals corner DJ Ivy is also opening his practice window to come back from IR as well.
Excellent. So we have more players coming off of IR. This is great news. We're getting some good news here, guys. We're getting.
Keeping to that, we have the Bucks D lineman Ernest Brown IV is also returning off of IR, so another player
Another
returning.
return. Let's go. We're seeing a lot of players come off of IR this week, Ken. I know this week is supposed to be the week that McCaffrey makes his return too. So, it's we're feeling good here on the football
Yeah,
fuck up show here today, guys.
actually, we have two big running back returns as Christian McCaffrey and Nick Chubb are looking to come back this week.
Yeah, no, big news for those of you that drafted Nick Chubb and or Christian McCaffrey. You guys will finally be getting them back this week. And I know that's big news for me because McCaffrey was my first overall draft pick, and he is yet to play a down of football for me.
But God bless Jordan Mason for being there, though.
Yeah, God bless Jordan Mason for being there. The man was consistent the entire time.
All right, and look, Aiden O'Connell has taken the job back from Gardner Minshew as he started for the Raiders this past week. We'll talk about how that went when we get to the scores.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know who really would be the better option for between Minshew and O'Connell in Las Vegas at this point. I don't think either of them would have really had a chance at winning this week. That's all I'm really gonna say on the matter.
Tom Brady donates $100,000 to the hurricane relief efforts.
Well, there we go. We got Tom Brady fucking making some headlines with some good news. Which again, guys,
Patriots
our
signed their
thoughts and
special
prayers from everyone here at the Helmet Haven to all those that have been, have been a victim of this hurricane. Definitely a terrible, terrible thing to happen. But again, just our thoughts and prayers go out to the families affected.
Next up, we have the Patriots signing their special teams ace Brendan Schooler to a 3-year deal worth $9 million. I do believe he is a sure tackler on that team, I believe.
Yeah, no, that's
so. Obviously, right. The Patriots don't have a lot of it.
Yeah, no, the Patriots obviously still without a lot of weapons, regardless. Still.
Next up, we have Lions running back David Montgomery signs a 2-year, $18.25 million extension, which keeps him in Detroit until 2028 or 2029.
And that's excellent news for David Montgomery and for me, as a matter of fact, because he's been playing outstanding. Because obviously, as you know, a lot of you know, I have him as one of my starting running backs in fantasy. And again, the dude has been outstanding this season. That's all I really have to say on him. But he's been very, very good.
Yeah. He's definitely earned it when he's had to step into the full role. He's been able to do so, and he's really good at splitting carries with Jahmyr Gibbs as well. So
very, very, very
big
good.
Piece for the Lions. Speaking of big pieces for the Lions, we obviously have the biggest headline this week. Aiden Hutchinson was diagnosed with a broken tibia and fibula. He did have surgery the night of his injury. He is out indefinitely.
Yeah, no, definitely not good news for Detroit's pass rush with Aiden Hutchinson now being on IR. A terrible, terrible injury. I don't know how many of you out there have seen the film of the play he got injured on, but his leg is it's terrifying to watch.
You guys remember the ankle injury that happened to Dak Prescott a few years ago? It was similar to that, but much worse than that.
Yeah, no, it was a horrific, horrific injury.
Obviously, our thoughts are out to him and his family, and we hope he has a speedy recovery. He is one of the brightest young defensive players in the league right now. We hope this does not cause any lingering effects to him when he does make his return at whatever point that may be. All right, next up we have Mike McDaniel's direct quote was, Tua is going to play at some point in 2024 again. Obviously, me and you have weighed in on this before. We'll just leave it at this for now. I don't think he should, and at least not until next year if he does at all.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. If he's going to play at all, wait the year out for your own safety, for your family's well-being. Just I don't really have too much to say on the matter that I haven't said already, but definitely gonna have to watch Tua if you are the Dolphins, because obviously you've been missing him, and without him, your team is nothing.
So unfortunately, we do have another man landing on potential IR. No, actually, a man landing on IR. Jonathan Allen from the Washington Commanders has torn his pectoral muscle. He is out for the year.
So done for the year with a torn pec. Oh man, that's another torn pec. Add it to the list.
Mario Edwards, the Houston Texan, has been suspended for 4 games after violating the substance abuse policy.
Again, guys, I do want to touch on this one real quick. We don't know what substance he was on. We just know that the substance policy was violated. That's all the NFL is currently saying. If we do find out something by next week, we will let you guys know.
Next up, Jags trade standout defensive tackle Roy Robertson Harris to the Seattle Seahawks for a 2026 sixth-round pick.
Yeah, and that's not the only trade we have happening either. It's pretty much been confirmed that Devontae Adams is going to be a Jet, too.
Yep, we will be getting those here shortly, actually. But when one Texan's leaving the lineup with the man named Mario, another one is actually returning after a brief stint on the injury report as the Nico Autry returns from
Oh, let's
his
go.
injury.
Let's go. That's a name I haven't heard in weeks now.
I agree, and he's a big name that they added this offseason, and he's going to be needed with
that's
that
a big
Mario
piece for the
game.
Texans defense. Like, if the Texans defense wasn't scary before, like, I'm sorry, they just keep getting better.
All right, next up we have another uplifting news here as 49ers rookie Ricky Parcell is returning to practice just about 2 months or a month and a half, 2 months after he was shot, by the way.
And again, guys, we've already sang Ricky's praises on this show. Ricky Parcell, you are an absolute animal. Again, he walked away from the incident on his own strength after being shot. So, I'm really just gonna keep my thoughts on this short because, again, we've sang the praises of Ricky Parcell all over this show before.
Yeah, and obviously I'm not going to say anything else here about that. We've said all we need to say, and let's hope the first game he's back, Brock Purdy gets him some yardage for him coming back this early.
Yeah, definitely.
Next up, we have Cooper Kupp is aiming to return either this week or next week. He's aiming specifically for this week.
Well, there you go, fantasy owners. You may be getting Cooper Kupp back. That's a big piece for the Rams offense, and I know they've been missing him because that team is currently 1-5, which in my opinion, they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I also think they should not be. Speaking of the Rams, by the way, there are obviously rumors floating about Stafford potentially being traded too. But we're gonna leave that to rumor for now and not touch too much on that. Next up, we have one of the bigger trades that happened was Devontae Adams being sent to the Jets. A third round that could become a second round with the caveat of it becoming a second round, the Jets having to be in the AFC Championship game.
Well, I don't see it becoming a second round then, that's for sure.
Yeah, neither do I. I don't see it happening. The Raiders knew what they were doing. They knew what that specifically was what they were asking for because I think they knew that they were not yet there.
Yeah, no, I don't think they were going to get any higher than a third, honestly.
We'll talk more about this one later, but obviously this is part of our, namestay of this podcast as Russell Wilson is expected to make the start against the Jets and his debut as well in this season. You and I will talk more about this later, so we're just going to skip saying anything about it right now.
Yeah.
All right, so the Eagles and the Bengals have been flexed into the 1 p.m. slot for Week 8 Replacing them will be the Bears at the Commanders.
So here we go. Bears and Commanders on prime time. Based off of Caleb Williams' last prime time start, I don't think things are gonna go well.
It will be at 4 p.m., not prime time. However, that is still then
No?
pushing him into a slot
Okay, so
where
they're moving it to the 4 p.m.
be
slot. Interesting. Usually
Yeah,
when they
where
flex
there's
games, they
typically
flex
only
them to
4
prime
games.
time.
But we get to see Jaden Daniels, who me and you have both kind of penciled in as the rookie of the year so far. And even with his, we'll talk about it more later, but even with this past week, he still, I believe, is front runner for it.
I definitely 100% agree.
The next big trade that occurred was Amari Cooper getting traded to the Buffalo Bills.
So Cooper
Buffalo
is
gave
now
up
a
a
Bill.
third this and a seventh next. And Amari, along with a sixth, goes to the Bills. This gives the Bills a big threat and number one receiver that can jump and probably get the ball a lot better than most of these guys can. Josh Allen having a top, I'm going to say 15 receiver to be respectful to Amari here.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's a big piece for the Bills to be adding. Obviously, Josh Allen is right now without a true number one receiver, so at least he will have someone that is, reliable on the field with him.
Yep, and in a corresponding move, the Bills have released Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Obviously, they no longer need him with the arrival of Amari Cooper.
Yeah, obviously.
Arizona will be hosting the Super Bowl in 2028. That is confirmed from the league, obviously.
So there you guys have it. The Super Bowl, Super Bowl of 2028 will be in Arizona.
Lions have placed D lineman Kyle Pecco on injured reserve. This is obviously alongside Eden Hutchinson. They are losing two D linemen kind of in one go here. So
yeah, definitely not a good week for the Lions. At least as far as injuries go. Game wise, though, if you're a Lions fan, I can only imagine that you are very happy.
Next up, we have the NFL has granted the permission and the sale has gone through. Tom Brady now owns 5% of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
And just to throw this out here, Raiders, to be fair, he's owned you since the Tuck rule, so this is nothing new.
I mean, yeah, fair. I mean, I wasn't going to go there, but yeah.
Well, I'll always go there. All right, next up we have the Jets safety Chuck Clark suffered a high ankle sprain, is expected to miss 3 to 6 weeks.
So another injury going on to the list, another high ankle sprain.
Then two more players were added to the IR for the Cardinals. They're expected to miss at least 4 weeks. Kicker Matt Prater and D lineman Belial Nichols.
Do the Cardinals have a replacement kicker on their team at this moment is my question.
Yeah, I do believe they have somebody. I forgot what the name is, but they did sign somebody last week prior to the game, which I don't know if that was because he was already injured going in or maybe he was injured the prior week. I'm unsure, but we'll obviously probably touch on that one a little bit more later. Giants tackle Andrew Thomas had a foot injury that could land him on IR. However, he is talking to experts prior to making any type of decision. Right now, he is considered week to week, depending on what a doctor has says.
Regardless of what happens, I don't see him playing this week. At the earliest, I would probably see him returning next week after getting the okay from the doctors. Just my personal opinion on what kind of is going on with that situation.
I definitely agree with that. Next up, we have Houston trading away Cam Akers for a 6th and a 7th from the Vikings.
Well, I mean, we do have Joe Mixon. So, I mean, yes, it would have been great to have to keep Cam Akers around because Cam Akers has been very good. But obviously, Joe Mixon has been getting the bulk of the carries, and he's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting as far as the ground game goes in Houston. So this trade definitely makes sense in my opinion.
Don't forget that Damian Pierce is also healthy, so you already have a 1-2 attack there.
That
Plus,
is
you have
also
that guy
true.
with the long
Yes.
ass last name. All right, next up we have the Lions re-signing one of their D linemen, Aleem McNeil, to a 4-year deal with $97 million with $55 million guaranteed.
Well, there we go. We have another contract signing.
Next up, we have the Panthers designating running back Jonathan Brooks for return from IR.
I mean, as far as the Panthers go, they're just not a very good team in general. I don't know how much of a difference this is gonna make for their offense. In my opinion, I don't know if you feel any different.
I don't think it makes much of a difference. I think it's more Jonathan Brooks finally being able to show what he has is more so what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, I definitely can agree with that take there.
Browns have also designated Juan Thornhill to return from his IR as well.
Okay.
That is a safety for those of you that don't know. Next up, we're just going to brush right past that. There's not much to say. I don't think that's going to help the Browns much because the Browns have kind of been dog shit all year. So, next up, we have the offensive rookies or offensive player of the weeks in terms of offense for each conference was Derrick Henry for the AFC and Sean Tucker, who we'll be talking about later, for the NFC.
Yeah, no, definitely another great performance by King Henry. He's been tearing up defenses all season. It's only right that they made him Player of the Week. And as far as the NFC side goes, a big game for that player this week. I'm not gonna touch on that one too much as we are going to be covering that one in Player Spotlight.
Yeah, we know what Derrick Henry is, and he's beating that getting old allegation every week. So
Yeah, every week, week in and week out.
next up, we have Dennis Allen and Chris Olave have been ruled out against the Broncos.
So obviously the Saints aren't getting much back. It's not that their offense is gonna be, super great with them, but definitely losing Olave is definitely a blow.
Yeah, you don't got much in terms of offense, especially since we do have one more Saint involved news coming up here shortly. That will make that news even worse. Next up for now, though, we have DJ Chark for the Chargers is returning from his IR that he was placed on week 1.
Okay, so your so
So
your
good to
boys are
see
finally
a
getting a piece
Charger.
back. Here we go. I mean, DJ Chark is probably going to be your best receiver if we're being entirely honest.
Plus, he's, I believe, the fastest one we got right now. So we'll have some speed out there.
Yes.
Next up, obviously, this is compacting with the Chris Olave one. Rashid Shaheed is having his meniscus looked at. He is either going to be week to week or out for the season, depending on what a
There
doctor
it
says.
is. There it is. The killing blow for that Saints offense. Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave are out. Like, my God, what is this Saints offense going to do?
They should probably put some like titanium rods in like Alvin Kamara's legs or something because he's gonna be hard carrying.
Yeah, get that man an adamantium skeleton because my God, the amount of work he's about to have to do.
All right, last up, another unfortunate news for this Thursday night football game, but it is one that we kind of both probably already knew was going to happen. As Patrick Surtain II is ruled out with a concussion against the Saints.
Yeah, obviously I saw the play where he did end up leaving the game for the locker room. Definitely took a big blow to the head. So the Broncos defense without PS2, I don't know, man. The Broncos defense is already a bit flimsy in my opinion. But PS2 has been the shining light in an otherwise kind of lacking Broncos defense in my opinion.
I agree. We kind of saw it last week. They played nowhere near what they played the last 2 weeks, and really the only missing piece was PS2.
Yeah, agreed.
And that does wrap it up for the news for the week.
So now we get into the game recaps. This is where the fun begins.
Yep, we are going to. I think we are going to talk a little bit about a few of these games a little bit more in detail due to some quarterbacks making their first starts as rookies.
Yes.
But we will make sure this does also not take too much time either.
Yeah, and obviously we
As
still
per
have a ton of
usual.
shit to get through.
All right, let me just pull up the NFL app, get to week 6 since it'll start on week 7, and we don't need week 7 yet. All right, so here we go. Week 6. Score recap here. We have the 49ers beating the Seahawks 36-24. I know you, my friend, skipped this game.
Yeah, I did skip this
I'll
game.
tell
This
you
game
now
kind of just went as I expected it to. I did flip it on near the end just to sort of see how things were going, and yeah, no, it was just a dominant win for the Niners. That's all I really have to say on the
For
matter.
those of you that don't know, Seattle had a lead for most of this game, but the Niners did end up scoring double-digit points at the end to put them away. Standout performer from that game, simply put, it was whoever their third string running back is, because Jordan Mason did go out early in that game. And so,
Yeah, that was
about halfway
definitely a
through the
blow to
game, I'd
my
say.
fantasy production, but I still won, so that's all that matters to me.
Next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars getting smoked by the Bears, 35-16. Real quick, going to touch on something. Bears fans, you beat 4 teams all with 1 win. Calm the fuck down.
I definitely agree. Bears Twitter needs to calm down. Apparently, when you're the Bears quarterback and you beat the piss out of 2 JV teams, it qualifies you as a franchise guy. But I also want to throw out there with how shitty the Bears have had it, it really doesn't surprise me. The Bears want Caleb Williams to be that franchise guy so bad, and it yes, flowers where flowers are due. Caleb played a hell of a game this week. He found a lot of Cole Kmet, a lot of Keenan Allen. He's finally starting to utilize those weapons that the Chicago Bears surrounded him with. I just can't imagine that this is really going to keep up for very long because, again, you're beating up on JV teams. The Bears are yet to beat someone that has more than a single win to their name.
That is also true. For the Bears, the standout player, I'm going to say, is probably Cole Kmet. He's been pretty quiet this year.
Keenan Allen also, I'm also going to highlight him. He finally had a really good week.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely deserves it as well. Next up, we have the 30-23 win for the Ravens over the Commanders. For those of you that are wondering, this game was very fun to watch. I think it lived up to the hype for sure. And although Jaden Daniels lost, he lost to an AFC championship contender. So
yeah, no,
can't say too much shit about him.
Here's my question to you, Ken. Will we see this matchup again in the postseason?
Well, the only way we can see that is if both teams make the Super Bowl, and I don't think either one does.
That is a good point. However, I can see a real world where the Ravens will make it for the AFC.
Yeah, I see them doing it. I think Washington might put up a fight in the playoffs if they make it there, which currently they are obviously slated to.
Yeah, I can
But
see.
I don't
I can
think they
see a
make
world
it
where
past
Washington
probably
does make the playoffs. I don't have them penciled in the Super Bowl though. That's for damn sure.
Obviously, standout players there for the Ravens. We have to go with the AFC Offensive Player of the Week in Derrick Henry. Commanders, I'm going to give it to Jaden Daniels because he played all around a great game and did not turn the ball over. This was actually his worst completion percentage game of the year, but I still think he was over 60%. So next up, we have the Packers absolutely stomping the hell out of the Cardinals, 34-13.
Yeah, this game was not close. It was not close, and a part of me was kind of expecting this game to be close too.
Yeah, I think we said it last week. We expected the Cardinals, especially after that win against the Niners, to kind of be scrappy this game, and they really weren't.
Yeah, they really didn't show a lot of fight this week, which It's really disappointing because I was expecting a lot of a better game from between Green Bay and Arizona, but no, it was just a Green Bay dominant show.
I will say this, few things here. Packers, we shit on him a lot, so I'm gonna give him his flowers this time. Jordan Love is gonna be the spotlight from that game. He did very well this
Yes,
week.
I can agree. As much as I enjoy shitting on the Packers and hate Packer fans and hate the Packers due to the 25 years of abuse I've received from him. Jordan Love did play a great game. Again, even I give Caleb where his flowers are due. I gotta give Jordan where his flowers are due, and he definitely played a great game here against Arizona. Obviously, Arizona not
Also
exactly
on
one of the powerhouse teams in the NFL, but still a good win for Jordan Love this week.
I most definitely agree with that. And the streak is over, guys. Xavier McKinney did not get an interception in this game. So
Quite
wanted to say that
disappointing
real quick.
to everyone around the league's disappointment because I kind of wanted to see him get another.
All right, next up we have your Houston Texans slapping up the Patriots 41-21. Joe Mixon, I'm going to say is the spotlight here. He did a lot of work this past
Yeah, definitely a
Sunday.
lot of ground and pound from Joe Mixon from the Texans this week. Obviously, we stomped an NFL JV team into the ground. Obviously, there's not a lot to say. You're not gonna hear me chanting how we're Super Bowl contenders or anything after this kind of win. This is just business as expected. As far as the Houston Texans go, when you get a gimme team like the Patriots, so. Obviously, we touched on it a bit earlier. The Texans will have a lot more of a test this week.
I do want to point out for those of you that want to know, I think Tame and I are on the same page on this one. I don't think Drake May played that bad for his first action, considering what he had around him.
No, when you consider what Drake May has around him, he definitely was serviceable. I do I dare say he probably played better than Jacoby Brissett would have. Probably. I mean, it's really hard to
I
say
agree.
because obviously the Patriots are again an NFL JV team. But I do think he probably played a better game than Jacoby Brissett would have if Jacoby had started.
I definitely agree. He's going to be the spotlight player we have there for the Patriots. He did well for his first start, I think. Obviously, I don't think any quarterback can succeed with what he had around him, but
Yeah, no,
he
and
put up a
it's not like
fight
they
at
were
the
doing
end
him
of
any
that.
favors by starting him against the Texans either.
Next up, we have the first 50 bomb of the year as the Buccaneers absolutely mollywopped the Saints 51-27.
Yeah, no, absolute a lot of desecrations this week. A lot of absolute beatdowns in my opinion.
I agree. The Bucks, I'm going to say Chris Godwin is probably the spotlight
Oh,
here,
Chris
along with
Godwin is
obviously Sean
him.
Tucker.
Without a doubt, Chris Godwin is him.
Much like Drake May, Spencer Rattler did a pretty good job, all things considered. He did make a few more mistakes than Drake May did, but he was also playing arguably a kind of a tougher defense, in my opinion.
It could be argued.
Next up, we have the Browns losing to the Eagles 20-16.
No
This was a
surprises
very
here. The
boring
Browns
game.
suck. Let's move on.
The Browns, obviously, they didn't do shit. Their defensive player actually leads the team in touchdowns, by the way, which is quite sad.
That is hilarious.
Eagles, the spotlight player is going to be the return of A.J. Brown, who I think had over 100 yards.
Yeah, no, obviously the Browns put some clamps on Saquon Barkley, but they completely forgot that A.J. Brown existed.
Which we did not expect that at all. And by the way, I forgot to mention this, Jaguars, I'm going to spotlight Evan Ingram, who came off an injury and had 10 receptions for 107 yards.
Okay, okay.
Next up, we have the Colts beating the Titans 20-17. This was by Joe I Am Elite Flacco. Not much to say here. Both teams didn't do a lot of super cool things. I will spotlight Michael Pittman here for this game, as he was considering to be landed on IR with back problems, but did end up playing and scored the the go-ahead touchdown at the end to win this game.
I actually have a player I'd like to highlight for Indianapolis, and that would be Mr. Joshua Downs. Again, he played a real good game last week, and then another good game this week. As I spoke on last week, when Joe Flacco finds a target that he likes, in this case it's Josh Downs, he definitely will get the ball to that target. And again, I'll touch on this a little bit more, but this is part of why my losing Nico Collins wasn't exactly a huge deal.
Next up, we have the Chargers beating the Broncos 23-16. My spotlight players here are quite simple. It is the running back duo of J.K. Dobbins and Vidal. Vidal had a 40-yard touchdown catch by Justin Herbert, and then J.K. Dobbins did score the other touchdown that the Chargers had.
Yeah, no, obviously business as expected for the Chargers this week against a kind of a gimme opponent, despite the fact that the Broncos were on a 3-game win streak.
Yeah, they lost PS2 early, and it felt like ever since then the defense just didn't do anything. And then the Broncos did score 16 unanswered in this fourth quarter, but unfortunately it was too little too late at that point. Next up, we have the Steelers absolutely kicking the crap out of the Raiders, 32-13.
This is the score that really raises the question on why are you starting Russell Wilson over Justin Fields? Justin Fields has proved to everyone that he is a starting caliber NFL quarterback.
And obviously my spotlight is Fields for this game. He did rush in 2 touchdowns this week. Najee Harris also rushed in a touchdown and had over 100 yards as well. But when you have a dominant win like that, and keep in mind the Steelers have only lost 1 game so far this year under Justin Fields, so it definitely turns, it kind of makes you tilt your head and be like, why now?
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of questions, and again, we'll touch on this later when we get to fuck up of the week.
Next up, we have the Falcons, obviously dominating the Panthers, 38-20. As expected, the spotlight player here is Bijan Robinson, who did have 2 touchdowns on the day.
Yeah, no, just a dominant win for Atlanta. Again, guys, this week, if depending on what side of the beatdown you were on, you were either very happy or you were in shambles.
Agreed. Speaking of beatdowns, what I would consider the biggest beatdown and the one we are all still laughing at, the Lions absolutely shit all over the Cowboys and pissed all over their grave, 47-9.
Yeah, on Jerry Jones's birthday, nonetheless. That was hilarious. The Lions had linemen scoring touchdowns just because. Like, the Lions were trolling the Cowboys there, and it was hilarious. The Cowboys were awful.
I want to say this to Cowboys fans. A few things I want to say here. You guys were able to lock down Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he only had like 30 yards and a touchdown. But you guys got absolutely slapped the fuck up by everybody else. So I don't know if that's anything to hang your hat on. As for the Lions, obviously, we'll see what they do on defense. They lost some D linemen. We'll see what they do. Maybe trade for somebody, find somebody in free agency. Who knows? Last thing for the Cowboys, maybe Tame, I didn't tell you this this idea that I had for why the Cowboys played so bad. I think I have a theory.
Let's hear it.
I think the team was doing what Jerry Jones did during the offseason, and we're showing him what all-in looked like in terms of what he was showing by playing like ass.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's what all-in Jerry's mind looks like.
Yeah, they just showed him what his vision was, and it was let's have nothing go right and get absolutely shit on by the Lions.
Yeah, no, definitely not a good game for the Cowboys this week.
All right, next up we have Sunday Night Football. The Bengals beat the Giants 17-7. This was a very boring game, honestly. It was still very close considering, both teams are pretty bad record-wise, but the Bengals did do more. The Giants did keep it kind of close until near the end when they gave up a go-ahead
Yeah,
touchdown.
no, in
The
my
Bengals,
opinion,
I'm going to
neither team
spotlight Joe.
deserved to win this one. Cincinnati just won because, they had more points, but like no there was no real winner in this game. Let's just be honest.
The player that did the most here, I'm going to say Joe Burrow, who had, I believe it was an over a 50-yard rushing touchdown on that day. But yeah, that very bad game. Monday Night Football now as the Bills beat the Jets 23-20. I will say this, I don't know if you watched it or not. That was quite a Hail Mary by Aaron Rodgers. He apparently can still do that.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is always going to be the god of the Hail Mary. Obviously, I have a lot of experience with his Hail Marys, being on the opposite end of them. But it was a good. It was a great try. Obviously, it didn't end up with the results that a lot of Jets fans would have hoped. But it was still a very good game, in my opinion, between the Bills and Jets. Very even matchup, and I'm very excited to see what Devontae Adams does now that he's reunited with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that the next matchup between the two will have Devontae Adams on the Jets and Amari Cooper for the Bills, so we'll see how that changes the outcome. All right, next up, actually, we are done with Week 6, so obviously we are moving on to predictions now.
Yes, indeed. Starting off with tomorrow night's Thursday night football game.
The Broncos travel to New Orleans to take on the Saints. This is a vomit bowl and tank bowl if I've ever seen one.
Well, should I press the button?
No, we're saving that for the London game.
Okay, fair. But I definitely agree.
Too,
this is going to be a tank bowl. This is going to be a lot of sloppy football being played.
Nope. No PS2
as far as a winner
Broncos,
goes,
basically no wide receiver for the Saints.
Yeah, no, this is hard to call. Fuck, who are you going with?
I'm gonna go with the Broncos. Here, I'm going with the Broncos. Even though they're in New Orleans, I just think the Broncos have shown more fight the last 4 or 5 weeks. Meanwhile, the Saints have kind of just laid down and died.
I definitely can agree with that take, and for those reasons, I think I'm probably going to go with Denver in this one as well. Although I can see a world where I realistically skip tomorrow night's game. I have no reason to watch it.
All right, next up we have Tank Bowl, New England at Jacksonville in London. And I honestly am scared to pick. Both of these teams are dog shit.
Yes, very bad out of both these teams. But a tank bowl it is, and a tank bowl we shall have. I'm fuck. Here's the real question. I'm not gonna ask you who do you think's gonna win the game. I'm gonna ask you who do you think is gonna make less mistakes.
I think it's going to be New England. I think Drake May with last week is going to feel a little more comfortable and know how to get the ball out to who he needs to get the ball out to. And Jacksonville has shown me no reason to think they won't make more mistakes up to this point.
I can agree with that. However, I think that the Jacksonville defense, as far as Josh Hines-Allen goes, is going to really start to apply some pressure to the rookie quarterback. And for those reasons, I'm actually going to go with Jacksonville to win this tank bowl.
See, this is one of the few ones that we can kind of split on, and it makes sense because both of these teams are so bad, and we can only point out like one thing that might make the other team win.
Yeah,
so.
It's really hard to say with this one because both these teams are ass.
We go from a tank bowl to a heavyweight out as Detroit travels to Minnesota to take on the Vikings.
Divisional rival. Here we go. And guys, I think it's about time we have a talk about the NFC North. The NFC North, every single team up in the NFC North has a winning record right now. Are they the best division in football right now? Hard to say. At this moment, yes. Will they be at the end of the season? Very hard to say, but Ken, who do you have to win? Ken.
This is kind of a tough one here. weighing the pros and cons, you can be like, well, Minnesota's at home, they're 5-0, but they have been kind of fumbling it late in games and almost losing them. I think Detroit wins here. I think if Minnesota fucks around, the Lions are going to make them pay for it, unlike the last couple teams they played.
I definitely can agree. I have Detroit winning for the same reasons. I think if Minnesota tries to fuck around, Detroit's gonna make them find out, and they're gonna make them find out big. Detroit is not one to sleep on mistakes made by the enemy team, so I can only see the Detroit Lions finally handing their first loss to the Minnesota Vikings.
Now, I think it's going to be competitive, but I think they're going to make that mistake late. They won't be able to get the ball back because we saw the Lions last week absolutely desecrate the Cowboys. And I think if they were given too many chances, that same result could happen. Obviously, not a blowout, but a win.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Seattle traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons.
This is another good game. Yo, we have a lot of unpredictable games this coming week. I am
Seattle
gonna go. I want to go with Seattle because they seem like the fancier pick, but I think that the Falcons, with the way they've been playing, it's been very clean football, and I think for those reasons that Atlanta's gonna be walking away with the win here.
I do too. Seattle is on a 3-game skid as well, and I think that 3-game turns into a 4-game skid, and I do think Atlanta wins here. I think Kirk Cousins has found his footing after the first week or two of the season. Bijan's being utilized properly, and the receivers are catching the passes when Kirk throws them. Seattle's, again, on a skid. They haven't looked impressive, and I think that continues on for this week. We have one of our first dud games of the week as Tennessee travels to Buffalo to take on the Bills.
Yeah, this one's a gimme for the Bills. Go and beat the JV team.
Yeah, Bills are gonna shit all over them. Let's be honest. We don't need to talk anymore about that game. Let's move on to the next one. We have the Battle of Ohio as Cincinnati travels to Cleveland to take on the Browns.
Well, the Browns are just complete ass, and there's nothing really to say about it. I just think Cincinnati's just gonna win because they're just better.
Same, obviously, Cincinnati coming off a much-needed win last week. I think they can start stringing wins together and maybe stay within that AFC North division battle that's going on right now.
It's definitely gonna be hard for them.
Next up,
it's possible.
Next up, we have a second heavyweight bout of the week as Houston travels to Green Bay to take on the Packers.
Now, part of me wants to name Green Bay the winner just for the sake of having an upset, but I think with the way our defensive line is played and with our pass rush, I think the way we are going to apply pressure to Jordan Love is going to be too much. And I think that we are going to win this game off the back of the defense.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to go the opposite, so this will be my upset of the week. Here's the thing. They're in Lambeau. They got their playmakers back. Everyone seems to be playing better offensively and defensively. But something I need to mention is that there's been a lot of throws that C.J. Stroud has tossed, and they've been close to interceptions, but people didn't get their feet down or whatever. I think that Green Bay's defense doesn't drop those often, and I think if he makes those mistakes this week, I think he will pay for them. And also, because let's be honest, we got to have a few more this week than we normally do where we pick against each other. So I'm going to say Green Bay here. I want the Houston to win, but I think Green Bay will. Next up, we have another kind of mid-ass game. Miami traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Which, by the way, it is now currently reported that Anthony Richardson will be returning for this game.
Oh, fuck. No more memes. You know what? Just for that reason, I'm calling this my upset of the week. Miami beats Indianapolis.
I'm going to go with Indianapolis here. I just cannot trust Miami without a capable quarterback. I do think it stays close, but I think that Miami's quarterback situation will kind of end up being the downfall of them this week. Next up, we have an NFC East clash as Philadelphia travels to the MetLife to take on the Giants.
I'll let you go first on this one. Who you got winning?
And I'll be honest with you, Tame. I'll be honest with you, dude. I have no idea which way to go with this right off the bat because Philadelphia has not looked impressive in any other games, I think, this week or this year.
I agree.
The Giants have been pretty scrappy, I'd say, this year. They've been kind of what we expected the Patriots to be
honestly,
this year.
I'm looking at
We
this
expect
one
the
and I'm
Patriots to
seeing
be- we got
trap
the-
game written all over this for Philly. Call this my upset of the week. I think the Giants pull one out against Philadelphia.
I think the Giants are getting back Malik Neighbors, which is big for them. Devin Singletary is also coming back, and their running back that has stood in for him has played really well. So they have kind of a 1-2 attack there in New York. Philadelphia has kind of been losing some of their muster that they've had over the last few seasons, and this is away from Philly. And I think this Giants defense has kind of been playing really well this year. For that reason, I'm also going to say the Giants are beating Philadelphia here. That's a trap game. We all know the Eagles are susceptible to those. So another one that we can consider a tank bowl, but we're not going to play the sound for it. The Las Vegas Raiders travel to LA to take on the Rams. Again, the Rams might be getting Cooper Kupp back. We don't know yet. The Las Vegas Raiders are also without Devontae Adams.
I think that the Rams win this week with or without Cooper Kupp. I mean, Devontae Adams is now gone from Las Vegas, and Las Vegas is down to, like, nothing other than Max Crosby. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say Rams, too. They're 1-4, but they've been a competitive 1-4. The Vegas Raiders are 2-4, and they have not been a competitive 2-4. So... and keep in mind, the Rams have done this basically all season without Kupp and without Nakua. Next up, we have what I think is going to be the biggest blowout of the week. Washington is hosting Carolina. I think Washington wins this game so badly, by the way. I think Jaden Daniels does not finish this game. I think he gets benched about in the fourth quarter to preserve his health.
I could see that happening just based on the fact that Carolina is not a good team, whereas Washington's kind of a team on the upstart. Now that they've got the stench of Dan Snyder gone. So, yeah, I'm going Washington as well.
For the final afternoon game, we have a clash that is a Super Bowl rematch as Kansas City travels to San Francisco to take on the Niners.
See, I want
This is kind of a tough one. KC has not looked impressive.
See, I want to go with San Fran just because I hate KC and they're getting Christian McCaffrey back, but I don't know if I can really trust the Niners right now. And that's what worries me about this one.
See, here's what makes this tough. This is what makes this game tough for me. KC has not looked great this season. Let's just be straight up about it. They have looked like the...
They've looked beatable, so the fact that they're undefeated is kind of wild.
KC has offensively has looked like the ass end of a dying goat all season, and that defense has had to bail them out. With that being said, KC, other than Baltimore, really hasn't played a team that's been this stacked on the offensive side.
That is also true, but like I said, something about the Niners, like they keep getting punished for amassing the greatest talent in all of football. And with some of the losses that they have on their docket, I don't know if I can trust them.
I think we're both going to begrudgingly probably pick KC here, but we're definitely going to be rooting for San Fran, though.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Next up, we have Sunday Night Football, prime time. The Jets travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. I'm going with Jets here just because fuck the Steelers if they play Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
Fuck
for real.
those
Jets
guys.
should have no problem beating Russell Wilson, and I think that you should have just kept Justin Fields in just to see if Justin Fields can beat Aaron Rodgers. Like, fuck it. Like, you got nothing else to lose with him.
Yeah, so we're both going Jets here. If Fields does start instead, then my vote changes, but I don't think he does, so I'm going with Jets. Next up, we have the Monday night games. The Baltimore Ravens travel to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. Well,
Now,
maybe
this
not
game
Tampa Bay, but wherever they're
should be a
considering
fun
their
one,
home.
and I honestly, I think this is another trap game. I think that this is a trap game for Baltimore. I think that we could realistically live in a world where Tampa Bay does pull out the win.
I agree with you. I think the Ravens, let's be honest, they barely squeaked by a Commanders team that has a lot less talent than this Bucks team does. And so I think the Bucks kind of surprise them here and get the win. Next up, and last game of the Monday night doubleheader, we have the Chargers traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. I'm obviously going with my Chargers here. I've only picked against them one time.
I don't see any realistic world where Kyler's going to somehow win this game.
This Cardinals defense was absolutely destroyed by the run game of the Packers specifically, as well as Jordan Love's arm when they needed to. And the Chargers kind of have a pretty dynamic backfield right now, and obviously they have Justin Herbert, so I do believe the Chargers win this game.
Yeah, no, obviously. That is going to wrap up our Week 7 predictions, guys. It's been a crazy week of beatdowns, and we got some close games to make up for it this week. But, guys, closing out of that segment, going into the next, guys, this is the 30-second timeout.
Guys, 30-second timeout this time around. We're going to, again, be talking some college football. I am going to bring up something real quick that doesn't have to do with college football, but for now, the 30-second timeout is going to be the Georgia Bulldogs, who are number 5 in the nation, traveling to Texas to take on number 1 Texas. This will be obviously another heavyweight bout.
Yeah, obviously the Bulldogs and Longhorns this week, guys. Very fun college football game for us on Saturday. I know when I get home from work, I will definitely be watching this game.
I also want to point out to everybody that remember, Archie Manning is currently considered the starter there in Texas, so we'll be able to see a little more of what he can do on a actual televised game. The other thing I want to bring up, it's not football related, this happened a couple weeks ago, but I wanted to go ahead and bring a little bit of basketball in here because I've been having to deal with idiots online for a while. I think Tame can agree with me on this. There is no universe where Angel Reese deserved that Rookie of the Year over Caitlin Clark.
Agreed.
I just wanted to point that out real quick. That's a perfect thing to bring up in the 30-second timeout. So
yeah, no, agreed. Caitlin Clark robbed of Rookie of the Year, and it's utter bullshit.
No, Caitlin Clark did win Rookie of the Year, but there were still people arguing that Angel Reese should have. So I just
really
bring that up real quick.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really follow the WNBA.
Almost unanimously, it was a 66 votes for Caitlin, and only 1 voted for Angel Reese. And it was later revealed that Angel Reese voted for herself because, of course she did.
I don't know. I don't really follow the WNBA too hard.
That closes out the 30-second timeout, though.
So, guys, there you guys have it for the 30-second timeout. Just something that we wanted to touch on real quick. Guys, we don't have anything for the Journey to Immortality. Unfortunately, our games are continued to stay bugged. So obviously, very disappointed to possibly be ending this segment just until these games get fucking fixed. But EA Sports is not doing us any favors by letting the bugs stay. Because I know a lot of you definitely enjoy this segment, and well, we enjoy doing it, but there's nothing we can really do about it at this moment, guys. Which brings us to the Fantasy Football Roundup. Now, Ken, I'm going to let you go first for this one, because I have 2 games in my league that I'd like to cover.
Okay, that's fair enough. Let me just go ahead and get my team pulled up here since I actually sent a message to myself so I would have it ready to go. Okay, so here it is. All right, so this week I had Jordan Love, who had 25.62. He had Lamar Jackson, who had 18.92. I had Joe Mixon, who had 27.2. He had Josh Jacobs, who had 12. I did have Trey Sermon in for the injured Jonathan Taylor. He only got me 2.9. He had Bijan, who got him 25.5. I had Stephon Diggs, who had 19.7. He had Michael Pittman, who had 12.5. I had Terry McLaurin, who had 23.3. He had Garrett Wilson, who had 24.7. I had Trey McBride, who had 17.6. He had Evan Ingram, who had 18.2. I had my boy J.K. Dobbins, who had 18.2. He had Devontae Smith, who had 15.4. I had Brandon Aubrey, who surprisingly had 11 points for the Cowboys. I don't know how, but he did. And then Justin Tucker had 12. I had the Pittsburgh defense, who had 11. He had the Chargers defense, who had 7. I ended up overall winning this game 156.52 to 146.22.
Okay.
So basically a 10-point win. That's too bad.
So yeah, that's obviously very good for you. Obviously, I have 2 games that I'm going to be covering. I'm going to be covering mine, and then we had a matter of fact, I'm just going to save it for later, for after I touch on my game. But guys, I started CJ Stroud this week, who had 24.38. Very solid player. Whereas my opponent started Jalen Hurts with 25.86. Not a big difference between the quarterbacks. Same thing with our number 1 running backs. I started Jordan Mason, who obviously went out of the game early. He only had 9.2. However, my opponent started Saquon Barkley, who the Browns had kind of on clamps, who only racked up 7.4. This is where I really start to pull ahead. The second running back, I started David Montgomery. He started Jahmyr Gibbs. So we had the Lions backfield going against each other. And obviously, David Montgomery had a much better game than Jahmyr Gibbs. David Montgomery racking up 21 points and Gibbs with 12. Going into the wide receivers, he had Mike Evans with 5.4. Mike Evans did not really do much this game. He went 2 for 6. And I believe he was also knocked out of the game earlier, although don't quote me on that, I could be wrong. I started DJ Moore, number 1, who only had 6. He really didn't get targeted too much by Caleb this week. Just a kind of a dud from DJ Moore. The first game this season where he's put up less than 10 points, though, so I'm not really too worried about it. Second wide receiver, he had Darnell Mooney, who had 6.8. I had T. Higgins, who had 14.7. So, obviously, you can see where I'm really starting to pull ahead. Third receiver, he had Jamal Williams, or Jamison Williams, not Jamal, from Detroit, who had 17.7. Obviously, a solid stat line, until you look at the guy I had lining up from him, Josh Downs, with another great week in fantasy, 19.5 points for the man. So definitely a good week to have Josh Downs on your team. Going into the tight ends, he had Tyler Conklin, who only had 3 on Monday night. I had Cade Otton, who was in place for Travis Kelce, who was on the bye, who had 9.5. Going into the flex options, he had James Conner, who had 8.6. I had J.K. Dobbins with 18.2. Obviously, you see why I won this game. It's all in these positional battles. Looking at the kickers, he started Kaimi Fairbairn, who had 11. I had Tyler Bass, who only had 3. Not much to speak on there. It's kickers. Moving on to the defenses, he started the Broncos defense, who only had 4, and I had the Ravens defense, who had 6. Now, guys, I ended up winning this game 131 to 101, and that also moves me to the number 2 spot in my league. There's only one team ahead of me, and him and I have the same record. However, guys, that is not the only game I want to touch on this week, because this week in my league, we had the fight for failure. We had the stand against success. Ladies and gentlemen, we had ourselves a fantasy tank bowl. God, I love that sound bit, but I just wanted to touch on this one because obviously when you have 0-5 going against 1-4, you kind of gotta look at it and just kind of check in on it just to see, damn, how's this shit show going now? I will say 0-5 finally got a win. So 0-5 is now 1-5. It only took you half the season to get a win, but ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment of silence to pay some respects to my league's defending Super Bowl champion, who is probably going to end up in the toilet bowl this season. Okay, moment's over. Just going over the games, the players' matchups. I'm not really going to touch on points. It was Brock Purdy versus Caleb Williams, Breece Hall versus Frank Gore, who is currently off his roster, Derrick Henry versus Kenneth Walker, Stephon Diggs versus Ladd McConkey, Brian Thomas versus Drake London, Wan'Dale Robinson versus Amari Cooper, Trey McBride versus Sam Laporta, Jamal Williams versus DeAndre Swift, Chase McLaughlin versus Moody, and obviously, Moody out with the injury. Obviously, this is kind of what ended up costing the 1-5 team, 1-4 team their win here. But as far as defenses go, Packers versus Buccaneers. Again, 0-5, finally able to get their first one on the board, 162-152. So, yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because it was an utter shit show, and it was hilarious to watch, and I couldn't believe we actually had a fantasy tank bowl. But I'm not gonna name names on who these people are. All I'm gonna say is 1-5. That's our defending Super Bowl champ, ladies and gentlemen. Well, guys, that closes out the fantasy football roundup. That brings us into one of the sadder moments of the podcast. Again, another shorter segment, but guys, welcome to Ref Ball of the Week.
What the hell's going on out here?
So, you and I kind of decided this last minute because I don't think we chatted much about this specific segment before now. But I think we both agreed that that touchdown catch by Cortland Sutton against the Chargers was definitely a ref ball moment. I think even the analysis guy, the guy that comes in and says when a call is good or bad, he said it wasn't supposed to be a catch. The announcers were pretty sure it wasn't going to be a catch. Basically, unless you were Cortland Sutton or a Broncos fan, you didn't think that was supposed to be a catch. They still gave it to him. Obviously, the Chargers still won even with that, but that is a score that could have easily turned the tide to make a team win that should not have been there.
Yeah, no, definitely agreed. A very, very bad call, in my opinion. Things should have gone the other way. But again, guys, it's not a super, 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 super severe call on Ref Ball of the Week. I know usually we have a whole game full of Ref Ball to cover, but just one really bad incident this week, and that's all we really have for you. Which I guess it kind of does make it.
But the Chiefs were also on bye, so
yeah, I guess it kind of does make this segment a bit lighter for us to cover. So I guess that's always good. Moving on, guys, we have one more segment before we get to the personal segments and fuck up of the week. And guys, we obviously touched on this a little bit earlier, but guys, welcome to the Player Spotlight.
all right. So the Player Spotlight today, we obviously touched on it a little bit earlier, is Sean Tucker from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He came in last week, did a lot of good for that team. I think most of his stats when we get to him was from that singular game. It said he played 6 games, but I don't think he really did anything in those other games. But it's Sean Lance Tucker. That is actually a badass name, by the way.
Yeah, I agree.
He is obviously an American football running back. He is also a kickoff returner for the Bucs, so that's probably where most of his snaps have come from. He was signed as an undrafted free agent by the Bucs after the 2023 NFL draft, so he has been there for 2 years. Well, 1 year and then so far half of this year. He did have a unanimous All-American award in 2021, first team All-ACC in 2021 as well, and second team All-ACC in 2022. In terms of his early life, Tucker was born in October 25th, 2001 in Owings Mills, Maryland. He attended Calvert Hall in Townsend, Maryland when he played football and also ran track. Considered one of the top running back prospects in Maryland by ESPN, where he was ranked number 14. 24/7 Sports was ranked number 27, and Rivals, where he was also ranked 27. Tucker was recruited by Syracuse assistant coach Reno Ferry. In 2020, as a freshman, Tucker was named Syracuse starting running back 4 games into the season following a rash of injuries and opt-out due to COVID-19 pandemic. He ran for the third most yards, which was 626, the second most yards per game, 69.9, nice, in a single season by Syracuse Orange freshman ever. He was named the Atlantic Coast Conference Running Back of the Week twice and led all freshman running backs in the ACC in rushing yards per game. Next up, during the 2021 season, it was actually a breakout season, obviously, from the things we learned about him already. Tucker totaled 1,496 rushing yards during the 2021 season, which is 4th best among all Division I FBS players. He became the first player in the program history to rush for over 1,000 yards in 8 games or less and set the record for most 100-yard games in a season at 8 and most consecutive 100-yard games at 7. He broke Joe Morris's record, a 42-year record by Syracuse, most single-season rushing yards in a game against NC State. In addition to breaking this, Tucker also overtook Syracuse greats such as Floyd Little, Walter Reyes, and Larry Sonka in a game against Albany. Tucker had a combined 235 yards, which was 132 rushing, 121 receiving, and 5 touchdowns, becoming the first player in program history to have both 100 rushing and receiving yards. Obviously, he surpassed that 1,000-yard mark against Virginia Tech. He was named the Associated Press midseason All-American first team. ESPN college football analysis Trevor Matich named Tucker one of the 4 candidates for the Heisman Trophy. He was the semifinalist for the Doak Walker Award, as well as the Maxwell Award. Tucker was named the ACC Running Back of the Week multiple times. Tucker was named the first, obviously, I've already mentioned those. His final career stats for the college career, anyways, is he played 33 games. He started 29. He had 3,182 total yards, 27 touchdowns, and in terms of receiving, he had 622 yards and 4 touchdowns, most of which came from the last 2 seasons that he played. So he only had a 3-year college career.
Okay.
After going undrafted in the 2023 NFL Draft, Tucker signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as an undrafted free agent on April 29, 2023. On August 29, 2023, the Bucs announced he had made the initial 53-man roster, and in Week 1, Tucker saw action against the Minnesota Vikings, having 5 carries for 15 yards and 2 receptions for 9 yards. And that is basically all we know about this guy from what I could tell. There's not really anything about his personal life in here, but we figured we would have a guy who definitely showed a lot more than people were probably expecting this past week.
Yeah, definitely agree. Big game for Tucker this week. So obviously we just wanted to highlight him and sort of put him on the radar for a lot of you guys. This guy's again a guy that is kind of gone under the radar as of now, and good to see him finally doing some things in the NFL. But guys, with the player spotlight out of the way, that brings us to the closing segments of the show. Obviously, we each have a personal segment, and then we have the closer. But guys, welcome to Kenny's personal segment. Welcome to Charged Up.
Okay, so for my segment, I'm going to go over real quick the last game. Obviously, the Chargers did really good that game. The last quarter and a half or so, not much offense, but I feel like that's kind of a byproduct of the type of Harbaugh run scheme we have. And also, the defense was playing well up until the fourth quarter, so I wasn't too worried about it. However, I did want to bring up the fact that obviously J.K. Dobbins returned to form last week. I believe I told you at one point before the last two games that were played and before their bye that I did see J.K. Dobbins slowing down against the Pittsburgh Steelers and Chiefs. Obviously, he did that, but I did say he bounced back starting after the bye, and obviously he showed that right away that he was able to do so. Obviously, you would ask me fantasy-wise if you should start Dobbins over a few other players. I said you should definitely start Dobbins, and I don't think I steered you wrong in starting
No, you
him.
definitely did not. We ended up go. The only other option this week would have really been Romeo Dobbs, but I mean, yes, Dobbs finally
But
had
we
a good
both
game,
didn't
but
know he was going to do
like you
shit.
said, this was the first week that Dobbs literally did anything.
And you and I talked about him like Dobbs doesn't do anything. The other guy, I was like, he might do something, but he might not. We know J.K. Dobbins is the lead back
Yeah, it was
in
Eckler,
LA.
but like
So
we didn't like that matchup against the Baltimore Ravens.
yeah, that was definitely not a good matchup at all. Along with that, I do want to say real quick. Obviously, the Chargers are getting DJ Shark back. He's obviously going to be our speed guy. I don't know if he's going to be back this coming week since he just got taken into practice again today. But I do see him coming back the week after the Cardinals game, most likely. And that will put a nice speed burst into a wide receiver room that definitely needs it. I don't think Lad McConkey's really slow, but he's not a speedster at all, to say the least. Joshua Palmer has done a really well job being the kind of the sure-handed guy on the team. And obviously, even Semi Fehoko, a depth player, had a touchdown catch last week after Quentin Johnston went down with an injury, and it was the last man up mentality. That's also maybe why DJ Shark was activated, because perhaps that Quentin Johnston injury might be lingering a little bit, and so maybe they want to make sure they have someone at full health on the roster. Another thing I have to say is Herbert had his first over 200-yard game this season. I do believe this continues to build moving forward. I think they are still going to be a run-first team, but I think Harbaugh saw more of the Herbert that most of us saw the first couple years he was in LA before, obviously, Staley ruined it in that last year or two. I do think he's going to start putting more 200-plus yard games together. I don't think he eclipses 300 often this year, but I do believe he gets more than 200 more frequently than not. I think his touchdown numbers will stay at one to maybe three, but I think he's going to be more focused on not turning the ball over more so than throwing touchdowns. The other thing I'm going to talk about is Arizona. Obviously, they are a very feisty team in some regards, but sometimes they're not feisty and they just die. So they're very inconsistent. I do think the Chargers are going to definitely run all over them, maybe pass for a touchdown or two as well. But J.K. Dobbins is probably going to make that defense look silly. The Cardinals do have the injuries to James Conner, which I don't know if he'll play, and Marvin Harrison Jr., who I also don't know if he'll play. The Chargers defense, I know that Tame normally watches Red Zone, but I believe Red Zone does show you that defense from last year to this year looks completely different despite being mostly the same pieces.
Oh, I definitely agree. You have someone at the helm that knows how to call a defense.
Oh, and by the way, I don't know if you know this, but the Chargers have actually allowed the least amount of points this year on the defensive side of the ball. They actually have only allowed 13.3 through the first 6 weeks. Obviously, the biggest amount, I think, was 20 by the Steelers, maybe. And so they've been pretty good at keeping the opposing teams out of the end zone. Unfortunately, they do have a tendency to kind of throttle down a little bit late, and I hope we don't see that moving forward, as if you do that against the wrong team, they'll make you pay for it. Lastly, when it comes to the Chargers side of things, The trade deadline is coming up. I think next episode I'll talk more about trade targets since we'll be only a week out from it.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
But I do want to say one target we should definitely look for is a tight end. I like Will Dissly and I like Hayden Hurst, but we need someone a little bit better than both of them to kind of lead the tight end room, and those two can be more of a rotational for the second guy. Also, Scott Matlock, the fullback that is also playing D-line, is actually playing on all three phases of the football, by the way. He plays defense, offense, and on special teams. So that's kind of dope, not going to lie. But with that being said, I do believe that will close out my segment. I'm very confident in the team moving forward, especially the defensive side of the ball, and we'll see if we can start building momentum heading against Arizona.
All right, guys. So there you guys have it from Kenny. That's just his thoughts on his Chargers. Now, we get into my personal segment. I'm going to be touching on things a little bit differently. But, guys, welcome to the Houston Huddle.
Houston, we have a problem.
All right, guys. Obviously, I'm going to touch real quickly on the Houston game. We had a real big beatdown of the New England Patriots this past week. Kind of one of the NFL's basement JV teams, in my opinion. Nothing to get too excited over, and that's why I'm not getting super giddy about it. Yes, we looked very good, but again, it's the Texans. I mean, of course we're going to look good against the Patriots. I mean, we kind of looked good last season with a team full of spare parts. But yeah, nothing really to touch on. I'm really excited for the game against the Packers at Lambeau. Part of me is disappointed that I don't have tickets to Lambeau to go and see this because I am living in Wisconsin now. But obviously, as we all know, NFL tickets don't come cheap. But obviously, real good test for the Houston Texans this week. Now, the thing I want to touch on this week, guys, is fan bases and being called bandwagon or fair weather or something else. When you leave a team, this is bound to happen. I know I'm going through it firsthand right now. Switching from the Bears to the Texans. Now, Bears fans have continued to call me fair weather, bandwagon, all those nasty things that no sports fan likes to hear, because I have gotten behind this Houston Texans team 100%. I love this team. I really do. I love the pieces that they have. I love the players. I love the coaching staff. I love everything about it. They were my favorite AFC team for some time, and that is one of the reasons that factored into why they moved up to number 1 instead of number 2. However, the Houston fan base, on the other hand, has taken me in with open arms. Kenny, I know you made a bit of a joke about this, where the Bears fans are like, "You're a bitch," and then there's the Texans fans like, "We will call him Pistachio." I was in Walmart when I got that, and that was hysterical, by the way. But guys, just be more like Texans fans. Yes, the Texans are finally a good team, quote unquote good team. But don't ever let someone just call you a bandwagon fan, especially when you go through 25 years of consecutive shit like I did. There is nothing fair weather about my feelings for the Bears. I hope they all die, other than DJ Moore. Like, am I allowed to say that? I don't know. Kind of feels like it's against Twitch TOS. I don't care. But like I said, I kind of want the whole Bears team to just die, other than DJ Moore, because DJ Moore is cool. But yeah, no, I'm just, like I said, guys, be more like Texans fans. If someone wants to switch teams, especially when they come from a team that has not experienced anything good in over 30 years, welcome them in. Welcome them into the family. You are allowed to change teams. I don't want anyone that listens to this podcast to think that you can't. As long as you are ready to buckle down and give that team your 150% support, you are allowed to switch teams. And that's all I really have to say on the matter. Guys, moving on from the Houston Huddle, guys, we only have one more segment, and guys, we have a fuck-up of the week this week. Guys, welcome to the closing segment, fuck-up of the week.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
Ken? Guys, stand by. We're experiencing some technical difficulties. Hang on. You're going back to the fucking microphone, that's why. Hang on. Okay, we're good.
So the first one is the Steelers deciding to start Russell Wilson over Justin Fields. You and I are basically in the same boat about
This, I think Justin's only turned the ball over maybe 4 times, and I think most of those were fumbles. And he is arguably the reason or not even arguably, I think he is the reason, other than the defense, that the Steelers are at the record they are at right now.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Obviously, what makes me wonder about this is, did Pittsburgh not see the smackdown that Justin Fields just laid on the frickin' Las Vegas Raiders?
I mean, they obviously didn't. Now, the only thing I will say is I said this to some other people. I understand kind of why they're putting Russell Wilson in, because when you signed him, you kind of guaranteed him the starting job. But to me personally, you can't do that now with how well Justin Fields has been playing. And also, I would have at least waited until the bye week, because this team is currently rallying around Justin Fields, and as soon as you switch quarterbacks, I don't think they like Russell Wilson, to be honest with you, and we'll see how they play this coming week. But when you have a quarterback that the team easily rallies around, and the fan base is behind too, for the most part, you shouldn't switch it up, and you're going to, which is just a massive misstep, especially heading into a game
I don't
against
like
the
this call. And I definitely agree that the players, and not just the players, but the fans have really in Pittsburgh have really rallied around Justin Fields just the same way that Bears fans did during his tenure there. Obviously, things did not end too well between Chicago and Justin Fields, but I've talked enough about that on this show before. I don't need to touch on it now. But obviously, guys, we don't like this call. Justin Fields should still be the starter in Pittsburgh. Justin Fields is the better QB. I don't think there's any question amongst people as far as that goes. But that brings us to our second fuck up of the week. The New York Jets. Why did you fire Robert Saleh? He was like the 8th problem with that team.
I mean, to me, it's like you fire Robert Saleh right before you play the Bills and the Steelers consecutively. He's the defensive mastermind, so I don't know why the offensive problems would fall on him.
He had the number
but we
2
also know it's
defense
probably
in the
an
league.
Aaron
Like
Rodgers.
it makes no sense.
And they've been pretty consistent, other than the times where their shitty quarterbacks of days past have put them into shit positions, and they've had to defend a short field. But, like, we all know the real reason why Saleh was fired. Aaron Rodgers didn't want him, so he was fired.
Yeah,
Nathaniel
Aaron
Hackett
Rodgers
should have
would
been
apparently continue to have his plays called by Nathaniel Hackett, which is fucking ridiculous. But I guess you can coast off of one Super Bowl ring led by Aaron Rodgers, just like Mike McCarthy has done for like the last 10 years.
And here's the thing. It's like the defense still played well last week, but the thing is the offense didn't look that much better either. And so you're just going to have that defense in the same position, just with a quarterback that might not turn the ball over as much, even though Rodgers has been turnover prone this year, I think.
In my opinion, yes. He's definitely been more turnover prone than typical Aaron Rodgers.
I also want to point this out real quick. If it wasn't for him being on bye, Patrick Mahomes would still be tied with Will Levis for the most interceptions thrown this year. I just want to throw that out there. I think it's fun. But yeah, I think that's all we got to say about the fuck ups of the week, though.
Yeah, no, definitely some head scratchers from this week. But guys, that is going to bring us to the end of the show. Kenny, anything you want to say before we sign off?
Just the usual, happy you guys showed up and enjoyed the show, I'm pretty sure. We'll obviously continue to bring these weekly. For those of you that do not know, I'm going to mention it now at the end here. I am, obviously, Tame knows, living out in the van right now. My van's out on the street. However, I am still watching football and I'm still doing this podcast because it gives me something to do. So just to let y'all know, I'm enjoying it that much that I'm going to find ways to keep doing it.
Yeah, no,
But that's
even
all I got to say.
and there's no doubt in my mind that you'll get back on your feet. You're just in a rough spot right now. It happens, man. But yeah, no, guys, as Kenny said, thank you
All right,
always for
that's
watching.
all I got to say. So.
Yeah, no, thank you guys always for watching. If you're watching, whether you're watching it live on Twitch or watching it back on Twitch or watching it back on YouTube, we appreciate all the support you guys show us week in and week out, and that's why we continue to bring these weekly shows for you guys. And not only that, we're right in that hour and a half sweet spot that we like to be in, Ken. So another great show. And I'm also going to throw this out there. If you guys are watching live on Twitch, stick around after the show because I am going to be streaming some games tonight. Yes, I know. I have not seen you guys face to face since the fantasy football draft. So, guys, with me being the only one home, I figured, hey, what better opportunity to finally stream some games. And we're going to be doing some Nintendo Switch tonight. So, that'll be fun. But, yeah, just as always, thank you for watching, guys. We will see you guys next week after another fun week of football. We'll see you guys later.
Yeah. Been that dude, so they all better take heed. Got the haters going ghost like they Patrick Swayze. I've been talking real shit, y'all been talking crazy. I've been on some new shit, y'all been acting lazy. I've been it, so my words are gon' make it float. I'm like dry ice mixed with alcohol in a bowl. Or below zero winter, go and grab a coat. What else can I say? The kid is just too cold. Never told a fib, was born just too bold. Never had to fold, but did break the mold. And as the story's told, if you didn't know, I'm running up the scope. This is DMO. Can you hear me? There's some of them minds, man, they better fear me. They need glasses, they can't see it clearly. I don't chase the money, it just like to come near me. Yearly, truly, my life is a movie. Took her on a date once, now she tryna groove me. I'm really that guy, they gon' have to sue me. Then had the juice, time to mix it like a smoothie. Groovy, they asked me how I get up, I told them had to start down. Found me some real ones, now I got a crew now. Met a loyal girl 4 years later, that's my boo wow. And now I'm out here giving new sounds like boom pow.
I'm Raps MVP, and I ain't going nowhere.